Since 1999, our mission at Bags of Ethics and Supreme Creations has been to change the behavior of single-use plastic. Founded by Dr. R. Sriram, we have helped reduce over 30 billion single-use plastic bags and products from entering our natural environment. Our focus on technology and sustainability touches every single aspect of our supply chain. Design studio in 2D and 3D. Sampling and product design, focusing on making the maximum use of the fabrics without incurring waste. Our in-house team provides social media video production and studio-ready photography for websites. Our communications team amplify client work through press, brand collaborations, and international showcases. We have full transparency of how our products are made. We call this our sealed supply chain. Our global clients trust us right from design to delivery. With more than 80% of our workforce being women, we have been a beacon of employment, financial independence, skills training, and we have built a strong community for over 2 decades.
So this is my first time in India, and so first time in Pondicherry and first time at the Bags of Ethics factory. And it's been an incredible experience. We were welcomed in the most fantastic, auspicious way. It was incredible to this wonderful facility. And we've had a tour of the factory, seeing everything from sort of the design, the printing, the sewing, you know, the upcycling, and just seeing it in action has been actually really inspiring, but also really emotional, because of course this is where we made the face masks during the pandemic that supported our charity. And I think just meeting the women that actually made those masks and seeing the machines was a really emotional moment. So for all of us, it's been an emotional day.
What it takes to be sustainable, to put together a product, to actually see the craftsmanship that goes into something, and I really appreciate things a lot more than I did before I came here. So I would say it's the combination of the experience, but also learning about how it all comes together.
Is to discover the soul of Bag of Ethics. And I think when you speak about soul, sometimes it's just a word, but here it's all encompassing. You can see the love and care that you put into the company, the people who work here, their pride, and it's absolutely stunning.
Hello. I just have to tell you that I fly a plane. I've landed in very difficult conditions in South Africa. I've spoken in front of 1,000 people without notes. But every time Simona, one of the other professors, called me here, I am so nervous. It's the most nerve-wracking experience I can ever go through, and so forgive me if I sort of stutter a bit, but you know, standing in front of such clever people is quite daunting, and so I've got to make my first comment on that basis. So bear with me. So my name is Sri, and I founded Supreme Creations Bags of Ethics, and it's been a wonderful journey. So as Simona said, we supply to some of the largest brands, whether it's Christian Dior or Nike or the Royal Collection, British Airways, Qatar Airways, Qatar Duty Free. But we also supply a lot of small brands, and we've really helped brands grow through our merchandising. Now, Simona has also taught me something else. She says, listen, our students are so clever that if you're not really as smart as they start looking at their computers, and I can already see some people, dipping into their computers. So I've got to get you engaged a bit. So, anyway, so can I just ask you to finish my sentence, please? If I started by saying survival of thee, what does it end? Great. That's what I wanted to hear. But I would say that it's not just the survival of the fittest. It's also the survival of the fittest and the kindest. Because what we are seeing today is that the brands are looking at empathy. That's how you are able to get through to the emotions of people. And so it's not just the survival of the fittest, but it's also the survival of the fittest and the kindest. I'm going to talk about internal branding today, because all of us in business have an internal branding, and this is again something, every time I come here I learn a lot from Simona. And internal branding is something which when the word came about, I just didn't really understand exactly what it meant. But then the more I thought about it, the more I learned about what I had done. And there's a lot of internal branding that I'd done, which I did not realize until I started, reading more about it. So I'll talk about the internal branding, and my daughter, who's the clever bit, MBA from London Business School, she'll talk about the external branding. You take the human body, you can, pump iron, you can go to the gym, you can have a fantastic physique. But that's not enough. Unless and until you're internally happy, you're internally sound, it's not the whole package. And we've learned from yoga that it's not the external body, it's also the internal being. So it's the companies who have the external branding, but also the internal branding, which is also quite important. The internal branding for me started when I started Supreme many years ago. And there are certain bits of the brand which remains fixed. And there are certain aspects of the brand which keep changing, iterating as you see the market. And that's really what happened to me. And that's what happens to many big brands and small brands. And I'll tell you how the journey went. My brand started off with 3 words that I use, simple words, which is professional, ethical, and green. I'm a first-generation entrepreneur, so I started work as a management trainee. I did a degree in management. And so I wanted my company to be professional and ethical. Green, because I just like nature, and so I love plants, and so I said, let's put that also. Now, 25 years ago, there was something called the Court-Old Pact, and this is an initiative which the Tony Blair government started. He had a mandate to reduce single-use plastic, and that was a big initiative. And many of the big supermarkets like Tesco, Marks and Spencer joined in, and they wanted to reduce or eliminate single-use plastic bags completely, because it was a horrible thing, and the public also wanted. So we got involved and we started manufacturing reusable bags. It was a humble sort of project, but then it scaled up quite big. Now, I was dealing with 2 major companies. One was Tesco, one was the Cooperative Group. And some of you would know about Tesco, some of you would know about the cooperative group. And I'll tell you why my internal branding had to adjust, because the base, as I said, was professional, ethical and green. But then I was confronted with two major companies, and we are a little company. We had the cooperative group, which is very focused on fair trade. They are very, very, very focused on fair trade, and they want their suppliers to be fair trade accredited. So when I became a supplier, they wanted me to become a fair trade accredited supplier, which I did. I learned a lot. We had to ensure that our entire supply chain was fair trade, not just our supply chain, but also we had to be fair to our employees. And so that's how we began to learn more from the brand values of the cooperative group. Now, you take Tesco on the other hand, their DNA is completely different. They are a very, very, very efficient machine. They want the best prices. Their technology is fantastic. You buy something at the till, and the supplier knows that you bought it, so that you can get ready to supply that particular product quickly. So it was all just-in-time technology. It was all about technology. And so we internally had to adjust, and my brand had to adjust to make sure that we had the technologies to cater to this big buyer. Things went very smooth. We got these big orders, and I was just so happy. I said, look, I'm going to be a billionaire very soon. And that's when things hit. When you're really happy, you've got to be careful, because the 2009 global financial crisis hit, and you'll just wonder why on earth this humble little bag is affected. But big companies, they suddenly changed. They stopped buying these things, and overnight I had about 1,500 people, and I had to pay, and we kept losing money because these big companies stopped buying from us. So we had to iterate, and then we started to supply the smaller companies. Rather than supply two big companies, we had to supply thousands of companies. And we then had to evolve. Our internal branding again had to evolve, because our sales managers had to deal with smaller customers, the marketing agencies, the agencies who were supplying merchandising product. We were dealing with museums who were giving us works of art, which we had to copy. So what then happened was that our managers, me and the entire team, had to learn to deal with this, which meant that we had to deal with something which is so important, the empathy factor, because when we're dealing with creative people, they're very sensitive. And so our managers had to deal with this team of customers. And that's where I say that the internal branding, which I looked at, we found that when we started recruiting our sales team, our production team, or anybody, we wanted to have all three: the IQ, the EQ, and the EQ. And people ask me why on earth all three are important, because in the real world today, when you look at people being recruited, they not only want clever people, they'll give you 35 out of 35 or 33 out of 33. Then you've got the emotional quotient, but the empathy is also equally important. And so when we started recruiting people, we found that we need to tick all three boxes: the IQ, the EQ, and the EQ. So we started dealing with all these customers, and because our sales team were trained in a different DNA, they were able to convert more and more orders, because they were able to discuss with our clients based on not how to sell, but to understand what the customer's needs are. There's a difference between being a hard salesman and becoming a consultant, almost like a doctor and a patient. So the DNA of our business was that you're not trying to be a super salesman, but to understand what it is the customer wants. Because when you're a marketing agency, you're trying to cater to different needs, and to understand the customer's needs became very important. So our sales manager, rather than become super salesmen, they started understanding and they started upselling, and they started making good profits in terms of what they could sell. So again, as I said, the internal brand changed. We offered any size. Our strapline was any size, any color, any shape, so that we could offer, several million options of our products to the customer. And that's why a lot of creative agencies, a lot of marketing agencies started coming to us, and we became more and more successful. Now, one of the things that I learned when you look at internal branding, there are some great companies. You take, say, Toyota, or you take Mercedes-Benz or the Tata Group. Now, I know a lot of people. I come from India, and the Tatas are a very large business. And one of the wonderful thing about the Tatas is not just the product that they make, but the name Tata defines trust. Now, it's not something that you use a creative marketing agency to get trust. It takes a long time, and it's built over many decades. And what I found was that internal branding that the Tata Group did to their employees was so important. So I found that internal branding was quite important for our business also. Now, I'll tell you a story. As I said, we deal with lots of big companies, and one of the things many of you would know is that our businesses are audited. We get audited regularly. We have 3 audits. One is a financial audit, one is a technical audit, and one is an ethical audit. The financial audit, because they want to ensure that we are financially strong in terms of what we can supply to the customer. We need to be technically sound so that we could complete the orders on time. And the ethical audit is also important. Now, the ethical audit involves things like, are you employing child labor? Are you treating your employees fairly, and so on and so forth. Now, during one of the audits, the auditors from SGS came unannounced, and they took a few of our factory workers, female workers, into a separate room and said, we would like to interview them. So our general manager said, okay, sure, look, and he was very nervous, and he was waiting for a while, and he waited for more time, and suddenly he found this huge noise inside the room. And what had happened was, he went quietly outside to see what was happening, and he could hear a big noise going on. What had happened was that these auditors were beaten by our workers. Now, these female were beating these auditors, and the auditors were so worried. They came out rushing, completely dazed, and my general manager took them to another room and said, look, please don't beat these people up, to my workers. Anyway, they go to the other room, and this guy says, look, I'm really sorry. I apologize on behalf of my workers. They have behaved very badly, and I failed the audit. I'm really sorry. Just give me one chance to prove that, I wouldn't fail. The auditors said, look, forget it. We are leaving. We are leaving because we don't need to audit your firm. We've had enough from your workers, and what you can say to us, they've spoken louder. When we started asking them searching questions as to whether there is any problem with the way you're treated, or whether there is any molestation or anything that you are asked to do, they got so upset that we were insulting your business, and so they started beating us. And they left saying, you've passed. Thank you.
So I left in 2018, and I did this class, and I remember very fondly some of the guest speakers that came. And some of the best elements of this class, other than Simona Botti and her amazing shoes, is that these stories will keep with you. Because the theory that you get, sometimes that sort of wavers, but the stories are really, really important. So I remember the internal branding case study that we had was on EasyJet, the low-cost airline, and the sentiments around being a low-cost airline transmitting through all of their employees, right from their rooms in which they could have a bit of downtime, being quite cheap looking, poor quality sandwiches, because the ethos of the airline was low cost. And when I left LBS 7 years ago, I rejoined the family business. So I actually left the family business, came here, actually moonlit, so did some work whilst I was here, and went back. And what I came armed with was that actually we had an amazing business with incredible values, which often can't be defined in an onboarding manual when you join a business. It is the feeling that you get when you walk through the doors, when you meet other people associated with your business, and in moments of crisis, who steps up. So the news overnight is that Elon Musk is moving down his responsibilities from the Department of Government Efficiency and going back to Tesla because, frankly, the shit has hit the fan. We've had some real issues in that stock market in that stock, and the value of that stock going down, not because the quality of the product has diminished in any particular way, but because of the values of that very visible individual who is leading that business and the alignment of those values and his potential customers. So what's really important as some of you enter large businesses, some of you foray into your own businesses, is to define who you are very clearly. Some of you are super into fashion. I can just see it here with you today. Some of you are super into tech. You're taking your notes on your laptops or your tablets. And if you define yourself in 2 or 3 words, you will really distill who you are and what your future employer should be like, or the future business that you create should be like. And it takes time. And what I can say is that it can take a very long time to really understand the values of what you want to encapsulate in physical ways. We work with lots of graphic designers, creative people, and still we find it extremely difficult to portray ourselves and the value of our business because it's really very hard. Last year in April, we decided to celebrate our 25th anniversary by taking a delegation of people to the factory. And normally we're very protective about who visits the factory, how they visit, because we're dealing with clients and their work. We're predominantly a B2B business, as you could have figured out. And having people come to the factory looking at the projects that are there is highly sensitive. So we have to really vet who comes. But we said, no, we want to celebrate. We want to bring the world to the factory. And the factory, I can see some Indian names in the audience, is in a place called Pondicherry. Anyone know where Pondicherry is, whether you're from India or not? Anyone know? Hands up. Yeah? Do you know? Yeah. Can you describe to me where exactly it is and if it's a main city or not? Yes, yeah. I don't know your name, sorry.
Sam.
Hi, Sam. Hi.
It's just right a little bit south of Chennai. It was originally a French colonial city, and very light.
Yeah. Yeah, that's perfect. So how many of you have been to India? Any of you been to India? A few of you. Okay, so India is a big country. It's called a subcontinent for a reason. And the capital of India is in New Delhi, and the major cities are Mumbai, Delhi, and a few others. Pondicherry is really not a major city. It's actually probably a tier 3 city. So taking a group of people from all over the world to come to Pondicherry was just a logistical task in itself. But we decided to do it because we felt it was really important for our team in India, our colleagues, our employees, to meet the people that they were selling to meet influential people from global brands, to be there. And what was so wonderful was that after a 24-hour journey for many of our delegates, they didn't really know what to expect. We didn't really tell them much, but we had the UK government involved, the British Fashion Council involved, the likes of Al Shaya in the Middle East, the Vista Collection, we had Otto Lengi Group, we had various different large businesses come and join to have an exploration of the factory. But when they entered the factory, what was really, really beautiful was that our team was so excited to meet them that they had ordered hundreds of kilos of rose petals, and they showered them with lots and lots of rose petals as they entered. And that one little move broke the ice. It showed that we love you, we care for you, and the response they got back was enormous love, enormous gratitude, which you heard in the video by the 3 women who spoke. So how do you convey that to your clients? It's really hard. You're not going to sort of say, hey everyone, do you want to get on a plane for 24 hours and go and visit the factory? No. So what we've done is that through Simona's support, actually, the company is called Supreme Creations, but we had a little label, a very humble, cute, smiley label, which has its own graphic design problems, but it's still there, called Bags of Ethics. And this label espouses the values of the business around sustainability, around smiley, positive attitude to the world, to both people and planet. And it has really defined our mission very well. And actually, a lot of businesses who work with us really want to be aligned with Bags of Ethics for various obvious reasons to you. You know, sustainability is, I think, still hot. It's still hot, I hope. Still may not be hot. I mean, 7 years ago it was super hot. This year it's, you know, maybe not as hot, but it's still a very important issue for businesses. So the Bags of Ethics label that you can see has manifested on our products, which have grown. Our product categories have grown from packaging, promotional merchandise, and items for retail. And we use our products, everything is based on a mission to reduce single-use plastic. So you can see here the label manifesting itself in 3 ways. So one is a project, anyone from the Middle East here? Have we got any students from the Middle East? Any Lebanese students? Anyone heard of a designer called Zuhair Murad? Yes? Okay, so we partnered with Zuhair Murad and an organization called Fashion Trust Arabia for this project here. And he, sort of a designer to the stars, said, I want to be associated with Bags of Ethics. Vivienne Westwood on the right, again, wanted to be associated with the brand. And as we've evolved, the brands have wanted to tell our story even more. So you can see here that this product has an inner pocket, and they've written a whole sort of little piece about us. So we have aligned ourselves in a sort of co-branding way in which everyone has does everyone know Intel inside? Yeah? I mean, we could be seen as the sort of authoritative mark inside a product, but now with businesses wanting to align very publicly and overtly through products with our story on it. Here, I don't know if you'll be able to see, but they've said Botanic by Bags of Ethics. This bag is printed using non-toxic inks to protect waterways and manufactured by a 90% female workforce. Reuse this bag 5,000 times. So this has been printed on the hem of the product. Now this is a label that goes on our product, which is actually just really a care label. And you can see on here, it has Supreme Creations, all right, which is our company name, our trading name. And you can see why that's buried inside with all of the technical details, and why the other brands want to shout about Bags of Ethics, because it aligns with what they want. So here are some more demonstrations of how packaging and labeling showcases the alignment of the brand. So I know that this class is important in knowing how to define yourself. But as you move into choosing which employer you want to go to, you can actually feel a lot about the company that you will join or the business that you will build by small telltale signs. I remember walking into the Tesco head office and I sat down at the reception on a sofa, and on that sofa, not only was it highly worn out in faux leather, it also had a price tag on it. So if I wanted to buy it, I could buy it. And that just showed the culture of Tesco there and then. It was, we want to sell and we want to sell now. If any of you go to an Amazon warehouse, I'm sure Amazon still do various site visits, you'll see that the employees are pretty highly motivated and very KPI driven. Everything is numerical, there are screens everywhere, everyone knows what's happening on a minute-to-minute basis. So you will see the brand and the internal messaging of the brand. And internal branding, as you will find out in this class with the theory following us, is all about how do you communicate about your brand to your internal stakeholders, your customer, your employees mainly, and also elements of your supply chain. So that's what internal branding essentially means. So what the stories that we've been talking about is how do you communicate your brand internally, and it can come through external branding. Now, for us, we're very proud that our label is on products externally, and it reinforces our brand when we try and hire future employees. To know that they are proud to be associated with a B2B business, but with a strong B2C focus, is really, really nice for us.
The product as such is very sustainable. I can assure you that. In the printing industry, there's a lot of effluents. There's a lot of chemicals that is used in the printing industry, but right from the beginning, we used only water-based inks. So you can just literally wash these inks in the water, and it just sort of biodegrades. So our product was very sustainable, very eco-friendly. And so when we took it to people, look, not all customers will buy your product because some customers are very aligned to the sustainability story. And that story kept going up in these 25 years that we've been in. So we found it easier and easier to answer your question. When we offered sustainable products, it was genuinely sustainable. All the inks, the entire production process, even in our factory, we had to edit this video, but we don't have much air conditioning at all. We are in a very hot place. Pondicherry is South India, very hot. But because we are close to the sea, the factory is built in such a way, there's a lot of natural ventilation, natural cooling thing. So the sustainability thing was not just greenwashing. So, there is always a great way to promote your company. If you have a good story, you need to tell a lovely story to sell your product. And we had a genuine story. I promise you, all that we've said is entirely true. And so that really helped.
Because the reason that we put the label was because of Simona Bottom and the confidence that she said, yeah, go for it. Because if Intel Inside can do it on every single computer, why can't you do it? So that was the main reason. We knew that it added value. We knew that it added value at no extra cost to the customer and added value for them and their customer. So we said, go for it. We'll add it free of cost, take it or leave it. And they took it.
And also, it's not a threatening brand. You see, when you put Supreme Creations on a product, the customer in between, many of our customers are marketing agencies. So they don't want to tell their customer who we are. So Bags of Ethics is a neutral brand. It's got a nice smile to it. It's green. So it encompasses everything that we stand for, but it is a non-threatening brand. So agencies would be very happy to tell their customers. So they'll go to Nestle and say, look, do you want to put a Bags of Ethics label? They say, yeah, great, why not? Because the middleman is always nervous that you'll cut them. So you need to put a neutral brand.